Hello great and wonderful people of the Interballs. I'm your friendly neighbourhood Pascomania, and today is going to be part 3 of the Knights to the Frozen Throne card reveal. So let's just get into it. The first card we have is Singarosa. It's an 8 mana 8/8 mage legendary. Battlecry summon 2/1/1 Frozen Champions. Now Frozen Champion is a 0/1 death rattle. Put a legendary in your hand. What do I think about this card? I think it has the potential to be something that a lot of new players would love, because often new players don't have the chance to get a lot of legendaries, and being a free-to-play player myself, I never got that back in the early days, and I think this is a card that would appeal to a lot of new players. But as a general card, it's a little clunky. As Mage at the moment is relying on tempo or really heavy RNG control swing type things, which this kind of does have, I still just think it doesn't offer enough for what it is. The next card we have is Hadron Rocks. Yep. So it's a 9 mana 3/7 Druid legendary. It's a beast. Death rattle. Summon your taunt minions that have died this game. This is a weird card. I think the fact that it's very similar to N'Zoth, which probably most of you would know about, but it's 9 mana, which is a little strange. And because it's a death rattle as well, it doesn't have as big of an impact as something like N'Zoth would have. Plus, Druid doesn't have a huge... Oh, I guess Druid does. Like Ramp Druid and stuff. Maybe I'll... This probably would work in Ramp Druid quite well. But other than that, it's not... Doesn't have enough of a... I don't even know what I'm talking about, but... Yeah, it's probably not going to see a huge amount of play in a lot of decks. Let's just say that. So this is Leeching Poison. It's a 2 mana rogue spell. Give your weapon lifesteal. There's not really much to say about this. It's a very clunky card, very much like Envenomous Poison, but nowhere near as good. So it's pretty crap. Now we have Voodoo Hexer. 5 mana, 2/7 Shaman card. Taunt. Freeze any character damaged by this minion. Now this is very similar to Water Elemental, which is a mage card, but not as good. The stat line is a lot worse, and Shaman is typically known to have very powerful stats with low costs, which is what makes Shaman very interesting, is it has a very tempo kind of orientated, let's throw something down and just how you're going to deal with it. Where this isn't as much of that. This is kind of like, I think it would be, if you're going to play this card, it would have to be in a new archetype, like a freeze Shaman archetype, which there hasn't been enough cards released to see if something like that would happen. I don't know. We're just going to have to see how this one plans out. The next card we have is a Paladin Weapon. It's a 4 mana 1/4 weapon. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain 1 attack. Oh, it's also called Light Sorrow. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. What do I think about this? I think that this kind of card will make kind of a new Divine Shield type deck. Like having the 3/3 that gives minions with 1 health Divine Shield. I completely forget what that's called. I'll put the card here. Along with Light's Darkness, getting the 5 1/1s on the board. And then they all get Divine Shield. This, once they all get thrown in and lose Divine Shield, you get like 6 attack on the weapon, which makes it incredibly powerful. So I think this card would be very useful in that particular deck. I don't think it's enough of a power level to be put in anything else though. So the next card we have is Professor Putricide. It's a 4 mana 5/4 Hunter Legendary. After you play a secret, put a random Hunter secret into the battlefield. I think this is a really cool effect, like, because I love Secret Hunter, and this would just make Secret Hunter fantastic again. But it's a control card. And as we've seen from the past 2 expansions, Hunter does not do control. And when you try to put out control cards, it just doesn't work very well. So we'll have to see how this one plays out. Now we have Cold Wrath, a 3 mana 3/4 mage common card. If an enemy minion is frozen, draw a card. Now this is obviously a really good arena card. It's got fantastic stats, and it just gives you a bonus if a minion is frozen. So all around, pretty good card. The next card we have is Corpse Taker. It's a 4 mana 3/3 Battlecry. Gain taunt if your deck has a taunt minion, and repeat for Divine Shield, Lifesteal, and Wind Fury. Now this is my favourite card that has been released so far. Has such a cool effect, because it allows for decks to be kind of redesigned, very much like the Curator, which like you put like 1 or 2 of a certain card in to make it a unique deck. And this does that, and if you can play it on turn 4, like, that's such a powerful minion. And even if you don't want to do that, if you played Shaman and put in Alkair the Windlord, that has like 3 or 4 of these things anyway. So just with that one card, you can make this card really, really good. So I think this will make a very interesting deck type, not purely around this card, but it'll be a nice addition. Now we have a Druid card called Fate Spinner. It's a 5 mana 5/3. Choose a Death Rattle secretly, deal 3 damage to all minions, or give them +2. I think choosing the Death Rattle secretly is really cool, because it means that the player has to decide. But because these effects are so drastically different, the player is very likely to guess which one's which. And overall, it doesn't have super powerful stats, and it's a Death Rattle as well. So once again, I don't really know where this would sit. It might sit well in like Quest Druid. I think that'd be a nice card addition to it, because it's another board clear. But other than that, it doesn't really have a home anywhere. Bolvar Fireblood. It's a 5 mana 1/7 Paladin legendary. Has Divine Shield. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain 2 attack. Now, Bolvar was a card that was released before. I'll just put that here for a few seconds. Okay, that's enough. And as you can see, and remember, it's not a powerful card, because it has to be in your hand for these effects to go. Now, this card could possibly be put in that deck that has Divine Shields in it that I was mentioning before. But even then, it's still very clunky. It has to be in your hand that whole time. And then if it gets silenced, which is possibly going to happen, it turns into a piece of garbage. So I have a feeling this is kind of going to be one of those pack filler legendaries, which we don't want. But yeah, not a very good card. Another Hunter card. So Abominable Bowman. I love the name. It's a 7 mana 6/7 Death Rattle. Summon a random friendly beast that died this game. Really nice effect. For example, if you wanted to get Highmane back, like from the next turn, fantastic card to play. Not a very good stat line though. And you'd kind of have to craft a deck around this ability to get just the things you want back. And that's going to make a Hunter control deck, which, as I said before, Hunter control decks just don't work unless there's like a really, really big push towards it. So I don't know how this card's going to play out. I think this is just going to another one we're going to have to see how it pans out. Now we have Bear Shark, the meme card so far. It's a 3 mana 4/3 beast. Can't be attacked by spell and hero powers. I think this is actually a pretty good card, because 4/3 attack line is very aggressive, which hunters like. And if you can maintain the board for the first 1 or 2 turns and then play this, it's a solid 3-drop, because mages can't deal with it just by clearing it with a spell or a hero power, for example. So you have to clear it off with minions. And if you've got board control in the first few turns, you're doing pretty good. And yeah, I think this card's pretty decent for Hunter. So we'll see how we go with it. Next, we have Bone Mare. A 7 mana 5/5 Battlecry. Give a friendly minion +4/+4 and taunt. Now this isn't going to be a good card if constructed, so we'll just leave that to one side. For Arena, however, it's almost as good as Bog Creeper. Now I think we all remember how good Bog Creeper was. But the reason this isn't as good as Bog Creeper is because you have to rely on another minion being on the board. Bog Creeper is just fantastic by itself. You could put a lot of pressure on your opponent to kill it. With this, you have to have something on turn 6. And if mages, which are very common, use something like Meteor, you're often likely not going to have that minion on board anymore, which means this becomes absolute garbage. So this is very conditional, but when you can pull it off, it's going to be a very drastic change in the board swing. So, fairly good, not on Bog Creeper level. The next card we have is Bring It On. It's a 2 mana warrior spell. Gain 10 armor. Reduce the cost of minions in your opponent's hand by 2. I don't know how I feel about this card. I think it'd be really good in a classic control warrior deck against like a spell heavy deck. That would be absolutely great. But as it stands, warrior control or control warrior just doesn't work anymore because there's so many other better control decks with other classes. And even if it did work, you'd have to play it against certain decks, which also makes it kind of clunky. So overall, not a good card in the meta at the moment. Things possibly could change, but I doubt it. So yeah, I don't think it's that great. And finally, we have Ghastly Conjurer. 4 mana 2/6, add a mirror image to your hand, or Battlecry. I think this is pretty good. As surprising as it looks, because it's not a fantastic stat line for a 4-drop, adding a mirror image to your hands could potentially be quite good. Works really well for Quest Mage, by getting a spell that didn't start in your deck. And also, it's very tempo orientated. If you've ever played like the old Tempo Mage, Mirror Image was a fantastic card to put in there because it's cheap and it stops the other aggro decks from just smashing into your face. So I think this card possibly could see play in a new Tempo Mage. But yeah, and Arena, it seems pretty good as well. So I guess we'll see how we go with that. That's it for today with the cards that have been released. There has been a few more that have been released, but I will touch on that in another video. But if you stuck around to this point, you guys are champions. Like, I really, really appreciate that. And yeah, so if you'd like to like the video, that'd be wonderful. Comment, I would really appreciate that. And if you want to subscribe, that would be absolutely fantastic. Till next time, guys, see you later.